What's good, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome back to the Water Boys channel as I got you, not instant reaction, but reaction to last night's game of the Pittsburgh Steelers coming into Kansas City and basically taking an ass beating, and it was everything a Chiefs fan loves to see. But before we dive into any of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video as I will cover anything NFL playoff related, dive into next week's previews, and Tim will dive in as a podcast as well, so you do not want to miss out on any of that. And without further ado, let's dive into this reaction. So last night, the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers by a final score of 42-21, and really, I don't even want to say the final score covers about how the whole game went, because it was a bigger blowout than what it seems. Seems like the defense lightened up in the fourth quarter. Pittsburgh was driving on them. I don't want to see next week Hughes be in because he was the one that was getting burned, but also I don't know if that had a lot to do with scheming as well, because Kansas City knew it was in the bag. That was the only thing that I wish we could have held them to like 7 or 10 points, but 21 they got, and it was still a big blowout. But this game did not look how it ended, because it looked like a typical KC Chief playoff game where they struggle in the beginning, and then it was like, flipping a switch, we all out, we gonna go, we gonna ball out. And it was exciting to see. The first quarter, definitely not. Even midway through the second quarter, I was like, what are we doing? This is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This should not even be anywhere near a game right now. And the offense couldn't get it clicking. The defense, they showed out. Like, they did what I was hoping they would do, because definitely against the Pittsburgh Steelers team, and also, as we mentioned before, against the Bengals and the Broncos, they struggled. Like, they weren't doing what they did the prior 8 weeks before, so I wanted to see them flip a switch, turn, and be who they were. Now, they had a lot of missed opportunities. They had a lot of dropped interceptions. They had interceptions that were called back due to flags as well. But the one thing you need to do against Ben Roethlisberger is put pressure on him, and that's what they did. Even though a lot of them didn't account for sacks, they made him feel uncomfortable, and it worked early on. And also, well, a big focal point with the Steelers is what we knew was going to be, is they were going to try to get Najee Harris in the game, and they did try, but Casey's rush defense shut that down way early and made sure that wasn't going to be a way Pittsburgh won the game as well. And let's jump to the offensive side of the ball. Definitely started early in this game. It was really iffy as well. I feel like they could have had something going on the first drive, and then Pringle had an unfortunate holding, which negated a lot of it as well. And then he also had one that he didn't block well at all when Hardman caught a screen pass. I feel like if he held that block, that could have been easily a 15, 20-yard gain. And Casey just wasn't clicking early on. It was like, ooh, what are we seeing here? Like, if this is a defense battle game and it's going to be low scoring, that's one thing that scared me in this game, and that I mentioned in my preview as well. If this was low scoring, Pittsburgh has a chance to win this, and that's the last thing you want, is to keep a veteran team with good leadership a chance to win it, because they can pull it out. And definitely with Ben Roethlisberger and everything we hear about, hey, this is his last season, yeah, he's going to try to win a playoff game. So it's good to see that the offense finally got clicking on in the second quarter. I don't want to miss mentioning this, which was Pittsburgh's lone big bright spot, which gave them early lead and made a lot of Chiefs fans, including myself, feel uncomfortable. Was like, damn, we're gonna go through this again, which was, I mention it every week it seems like, but KC needs to get away from this cute trickery stuff, especially early on. Now, if you got a lead and you got a comfortable lead, do it, see what happens. But I get it, it was trying to spark something for the offense to get going, but man, when I first saw the Wildcat formation, I was just hoping Hardman would go up the middle, because we saw it last week where Hardman took a handoff and he went straight up the middle for 10, 15 yards. And I want to see him do it again, because he looks like he knows the hole and runs straight. He doesn't dance or find it. So I was like, okay, this could be good. And then when he handed it to Williams, and Williams fumbled the snap once, I was like, damn, just get down. Got hit again, and then ball pops out. TJ Watt is sliding in the end zone. Next thing, I'm like, we really going to do this? We really going to mess with my emotions on Wild Card Weekend? Like, this shouldn't be how it is. And it's funny, because I was concerned about this game all week. I don't know, just what the media perception, of course, Chiefs Kingdom knows how it goes. Everyone downplays and says this isn't Casey's year. They're not the same team. And then you have Ben Roethlisberger saying, oh, we're just going to go out there and play. We don't have a chance. That's kind of like a reverse psychology thing in my eyes. We're messing with you. We're going to go out and we're going to ball out. And then it just seemed like Pittsburgh was going to do everything to win this game. And I'm just like, it just seemed like one of those games where I didn't want to be a part of, like, because I feel like this could be a big upset. And that's how it was looking early on for me. I'm like, man, just don't get too caught up in it. If it's an upset, keep your composure, don't get too upset. But you don't want to lose it to a team like this, to a team that doesn't even really deserve a shot to be in the playoffs. I mentioned all year I don't like Pittsburgh, and the Colts blew an opportunity to get in. The Chargers, like, those are teams that are viable to be playoff teams. And I think if they were to play last night as well, I think both those teams beat Pittsburgh as well. But that's how the seeding works. And we'll get into the 7th seed later on down the week and see if that's really the best option for the NFL. But let's dive back into this game. Yeah, it was very scary and very iffy. But then something happened. And that something that lit a spark, which I mentioned in Denver, was I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back. We know I'm a huge Clyde Edwards-Helaire supporter. Jet McKinnon is your number one back. You ride him through the playoffs. What he did in the receiving game and what he did in the rushing game as well is the last 2 weeks lets me know he needs to be the primary back, because he is a great back. And that, like, we all knew he had explosion. We all hoped in the beginning of the season, like I mentioned when we signed him. Preseason, he looked great as well. We knew what he was capable of doing back in Minnesota, and that was the main reason the Niners signed him as well, was to be great and be one of their lead backs. And of course, injuries hit him like they did with KC, and he's 29 and he looks fresh. He looks ready to go. And man, if he can be like our Damian Williams, like, he gives us that. I'm not going to say he's as fast as Charles. He might be, but I don't know. He gives us that explosion that Charles gives us, which I don't think any other back on this roster provides. And he gives you that explosion and elusiveness, which Helaire has, but I don't think to the capability that McKinnon has. And he just brings a whole different type of weapon. And if when Helaire comes back, and maybe if it is next week, you rotate them back and forth. And I would love that, honestly. I think that would be your best dynamic 1-2 punch in this playoffs that I think a lot of teams would struggle with. I love Williams and I love Gore. I do think Gore is down to the 4th-string back, just because he did have his carries, but he also struggled throughout the game to find any holes. Williams, you could tell he was hurt throughout the game, and they didn't really factor him in the game plan too much, but you did see him on the field here and there. But it was Jet McKinnon's game, and it needs to be Jet McKinnon's postseason if they want to beat the Buffalo Bills and if they want to move on and try to get another Super Bowl. But yeah, he had the first touchdown, and then it was just like, oh, we click and we ready to go. And then out of nowhere, Mahomes just finds this rhythm, and Steelers try to score at the end of the half, and KC's defense still playing clutch. They're still playing really well, and another touchdown comes on the board, and then I think we're up 21-7 at half. The cover spread from it being 5 minutes into the second quarter, they're down 7-0 to 21 unanswered, just like that. Now in my head, I'm thinking, I hope KC's thinking what I'm thinking. It's like, Buffalo, you put on a show Saturday night, and everyone's saying you the top dog in the AFC. It's our turn now. We run the AFC. Let's show we are still capable of hanging with you. Definitely after what they did to us this season as well. I think that was in their heads, but it was definitely in my head. So I was like, man, go for 50. Score more than them. Let them know what's good. Let them know this offense is nothing to mess with. Now, of course, they didn't get the 50. They kind of let up towards the end as well, but they held on to a huge victory. But my main thing was, if they go up 28-7, that was going to be my main point, is if they go up 28-7 after halftime, let's see how they react. Because we know when KC gets into a huge lead like that, it's ease up, let's ride into next week, let's just run through. And sometimes that has bit them in the ass. Like, we've seen it happen where they've been up huge and then teams have come back. The Bengals, for example, they like to let up on the brakes and let teams in. This was completely different. They just kept going. They got to 28, then they got to 35, 42, and then that's when they started calming down when the fourth quarter came in, and Pittsburgh started. That's what I said. I don't know if it was the scheming and play calling towards the end, or if Ben just finally hit a rhythm way too late in the game. That's hopefully something they can adjust and get out before heading into Buffalo, because last thing I want to see is Hughes out there, because Hughes won't cover the lights. Like, Buffalo has receivers for days. They got Diggs, Davis, Beasley, you name it. I'm missing Sanders. Singletary finally got into a running game against New England, which we all have been thinking he can be that type of back. Well, New England, he proved he was that type of back. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a game, I tell you. Like, Buffalo versus KC is going to be the game where everyone, I think, is going to be like, who wins this game might win the Super Bowl. Who wins this game will definitely go to the Super Bowl, because I know everyone's overlooking the Bengals and Titans, but these two teams right here are the powerhouses, and I think it's going to be hard-fought slugfest. And, of course, I'm going to ride with my boys to go all the way through, but just because of what happened earlier in the season, like I mentioned earlier, the playoffs I wanted to play out, of course it didn't, was the Chargers, Bills, and Titans. Now, it still can manifest in that way as well. I want this to be kind of like our revenge tour. Like, I really do. I want them to slap the Bills around, and I want them to slap the Titans. But if the Bengals win as well, I want to bring all these Bengals fans down to reality, because they really think they handled us like for all 4 quarters, when I just feel like KC did what I didn't want them to do in this game, which was let up. I would love to play the Bengals as well, and I love how it's all written up. And if, like I mentioned on Twitter before, the only team I'm scared of in the playoffs of beating the Kansas City Chiefs is the Kansas City Chiefs. No one can beat this team. It's just real. Like, the only way they beat themselves is off turnovers and how they scheme plays and how they protect and all that. And like I mentioned before, I know any team can say that, but that is big with this team. Like, if someone gets up early, like if you notice, it's turnovers and it's like stupid plays. Like even the Mahomes play, like he just didn't see Watt and it was tipped in the air. If he just checks down to Kelsey, that drive is still alive, and we might have a 49-7 game. They don't even score, actually, and that 7 goes off the board. So it would be very interesting to see how it plays out. Actually, I mixed it all up just so no one jumps on me. That's not the play they scored, but that would have been a play KC would have scored on, and it could have added another touchdown on. And I think if KC doesn't beat themselves, they're going to be nearly impossible to beat. And this is a team everyone has been asking throughout the whole season, and it's going to be funny to see if they do it against Buffalo too as well. I'm not going to say the defense is going to clamp down the way they did against the Steelers, but I'm going to say if that offense keeps like scoring and steamrolling, it's going to be really, because we haven't seen it all season. And if this is something KC has held, like, that is a ballsy move to do, because I know it's like I mentioned, like we say it's a new KC team and then they just revert back to old. Like, that is so wild. But also too, like, even the new KC team is very deadly and they know how to manage a game. And if they put both those together, like I said, NFL, watch out. And I'm just excited for next week, because I don't even have the nerves hitting in right now for next week, because I know we could potentially lose the game, but I'm like, man, I feel we can actually beat this team and bring everyone back down to reality. And like, this feels like the Super Bowl. Bills and Chiefs, this is the biggest matchup of the week. There's huge matchup next week. This divisional round is going to be so much fun, because we also got the Titans, Bengals, and then you got the Packers and Niners, and then that's going to be so enticing and fun to watch. And then the Bucs will either take on the Cardinals or Rams. Like, these 4 matchups are going to be all elite matchups that I think are going to be way better than Super Wild Card Weekend. And I think that's where the NFL is struggling. They're trying to make the wild card weekend more fun, but the divisional rounds are where it clamps and gets together. And I just can't tell you how thrilled I am to watch these Bills come into Arrowhead, and it's going to be fun. I hope it's revenge time. I hope Mahomes shuts it all up, shuts it all out. It's going to be fun. But you guys let me know down below how you felt about this game. If this was the Chiefs game you was hoping to see and you think they are ready to take on this Bills, or if you just think the Bills are just going to do what they did earlier in the season, that's not going to happen. I don't think it will. I think it's going to be fun. But you let me know in the comments down below. Without further ado, please do subscribe to the channel. Please do like this video, because I will be tuning into you guys all week. And without that, take care.